do you find that oftentimes, especially in that switch from generation 2 to generation 3, I think that's typically the toughest transition. They're all, they can all be tough, but it's that cousin generation where, we didn't all grow up in the same household. We didn't grow up with the same values. And so, now we're marrying, we've got spouses coming in from other families, and it just complicates things more. Do you get a lot of pushback on the idea of, formulating or forming an advisory board at that level?
Meaning for the third generation, getting pushback? Not so much the third generation. The second generation is tough because they think their board meetings when they shave in the morning and they ask themselves, what they want to do. Third generation is usually more receptive to a board. There's always a little bit of nervousness, like they're losing control. My recommendation typically is and it's evolutionary, but appoint advisory board members initially. But whether they're advisory or fiduciary directors, where they have the legal right to vote and so on, you treat them the same. And I tell the family members, they're there to help you. They're not there to fire you or, and if you don't like what they say, you can remove them in about 45 minutes and, replace them. So you're not giving up any real control, but you're getting some really important help. So,
right.
That part it goes pretty well.
I have a family right now that we're right in that transition from G2 to G3. And the moment we talk advisory board, the G2 members are all like, oh, just cringe just at the thought of it.
Yeah.
And the power behind it is just, insurmountable. It's just so helpful to have those things and have an outside perspective on what you're thinking, especially if you bring in high-powered people that, really can bring value to what you're doing, and you're getting that value relatively inexpensive. It's some of the best money that, most family businesses will put out there, I would say.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I've served on a bunch of boards, and I, most of the time they've been very, very, very helpful. There's a few times that I actually have 5 case studies. I call it toxic directors, where one director can really undermine the board's effectiveness. I have some case studies of that. So you have to manage your board too. It's just, it's more than just forming it. There can be times when there's conflicts or hidden agendas or so on so on. So the boards need to be managed and the directors need to be evaluated. And there's a lot of nuances to forming a board that I think are worthy of.
I think we could do a whole show on just talking about family advisory boards. That's a great topic.
Yeah.
So,
and the other side of governance, of course, is the family governance, right, Michael? So family council, family constitutions, kind of parallel types of concepts that are dealing with managing the family part of the business, where the board manages the business,
So what are some of the, so talk about those for just a second. What do you feel are some of the, the important pieces there, and why is it so important to do that?
It all gets down to managing expectation. First of all, coming up with how you want to operate. How's our family going to work together? And then managing the expectations by agreeing to those things so people can understand the deal and have input into it. The one thing that I think it's worth noting is that failure is not if someone says, I need distributions, I need cash flow from this business, and the other 80% or 90% say, well, we want to lay it all in the business and grow it. Then there's probably an exit strategy for the person that needs cash flow. I mean, you're not going to be able to make everybody happy, but the goal is to align individuals' needs the best you can, and whoever remains in the business, that group is aligned so they're all pulled in the same way. And so I had a client that 95% of his net worth was in the family real estate business, and they were very conservative and they weren't doing distributions, and this guy needed distributions.
Right.
So you look at, as a financial advisor, as you are, you go to say, you got 95% of your net worth in an illiquid concentrated investment that's not giving you distributions and you need money. That's probably not a good financial plan for you. So, the problem was they didn't have a plan on how he could get out. So then it's like negotiating, and, that creates a whole lot of problems, because you have a bunch of, people on one side and one person on the other side. How do you think that negotiation is going to go? Particularly if they're not fond of that guy, and that's kind of so that's why you want to have this stuff worked out in advance.
Interesting. So the family council and the family constitution kind of acts, as the family side of that, your buy-sell agreement or the operating agreement, for the people in the business. But if you're an owner outside of the business and not part of the business, then it helps to have those decisions and, helps you to determine those decisions and think about things before they happen. And I guess
And
that's
also, like,
go ahead.
my son just graduated from college. Can he join the family business? Is the CEO going to make that decision, or is the family going to have some policies in terms of, well, if you want to join the family business, one, we need to have a position that needs to be filled. Two, you need to be the one most competent to do it. And three, you need 5 years of outside experience before you join the family business, or whatever the rules are. That's kind of that's part of the stuff that you deal with family constitutions. The other thing the family council can do is work on the culture of the organization. That kind of flows into family dynamics, but what's our culture? How are we going to deal with conflict, resolution? What does it mean to be part of our family? Are we going to have annual retreats where we can develop and our culture and our relationships amongst the family members? So there's a whole bunch of family management issues that are really important in a family business if you want to have it maintained for multiple generations, because as you stated, each generation you're further and further apart, both geographically, different parents, different interests, different ownership levels. You're not working in the business, so those kinds of things can be dealt with.